Police detained over 2,000 people and used force to break up rallies across Russia as tens of thousands of protesters demand the release of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. Navalny had called on his supporters to protest after being arrested last weekend. He returned to Russia from Germany for the first time since being poisoned with a nerve agent he says was slipped to him by a state security agent in August. The authorities had warned people to stay away from Saturday's protests, saying they risk catching COVID-19 as well as prosecution and possible jail time for attending an unauthorized event. Leonid Volkov, a Navalny ally, called on them to do the same next weekend to try to free Navalny from what he called the clutches of his killers. In central Moscow, an estimated at least 40,000 people had gathered in one of the biggest unauthorized rallies for years. Police were seen roughly detaining people, bundling them into nearby vans. Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte says a delay in the supply of coronavirus vaccines from Pfizer and AstraZeneca is unacceptable. Both companies have warned they will not be able to deliver vaccines to the EU as agreed due to the production's issues. Mr. Conte has accused them of serious contract violations. A senior Italian health official has warned that the country will have to rethink its vaccination program if supply issues continue. The AstraZeneca vaccine, developed by Oxford University, has not yet been given EU approval. However, the bloc's drug regulator is expected to give it the green light at the end of this month. A spokesman for AstraZeneca said on Friday that initial volumes will be lower than originally anticipated without giving further details. The drug firm had been set to deliver about 80 million doses to the 27 nations by March. Last week, Pfizer announced it was slowing supplies to Europe to make manufacturing changes that will boost capacity. The EU has ordered 600 million doses from Pfizer. Google has threatened to remove its search engine from Australia over the nation's attempt to make the tech giant share royalties with news publishers. Australia is introducing a world-first law to make Google, Facebook and potentially other tech companies pay media outlets for their news content. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said lawmakers will not yield to threats. Australia is far from Google's largest market, but the proposed news code is seen as a possible global test case for how governments could seek to regulate big tech firms. Tech firms have faced increasing pressure to pay for news content in other countries, including France, where Google struck a landmark deal with media outlets on Thursday. In Australia, the proposed news code would tie Google and Facebook to mediate negotiations with publishers over the value of news content if no agreement could be reached first. But lawmakers challenged this, accusing Google of blackmail and bullying Australia for raising the reform. Mr. Morrison said his government remained committed to progressing the laws through Parliament this year. Larry King, the giant of US broadcasting who achieved worldwide fame for interviewing political leaders and celebrities, has died at the age of 87. King conducted an estimated 50,000 interviews in his 6-decade career, which included 25 years as host of the popular CNN talk show Larry King Live. Earlier this month, he was treated in hospital for COVID-19. The talk show host, famous for his braces and rolled-up sleeves, had faced several health problems in recent years, including heart attacks. King was married 8 times to 7 women and had 5 children. 2 of them died last year within weeks of each other. Daughter Chaya died from lung cancer and son Andy of a heart attack. Australia's medical regulator has approved the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for use under a formal process, one of the first countries to complete a comprehensive approval.
Just earlier today, the Therapeutic Goods Administration, Professor Skerritt, announced that they had approved the Pfizer vaccine for people aged over 16 years here in Australia. I note that this is not an emergency approval. as has been done in some other jurisdictions around the world. This is a formal approval under the ordinary processes of the TGA. And we are one of the first countries in the handful of countries to have gone through that comprehensive and thorough process here in Australia to ensure the approval of that vaccine.
The vaccine had been provisionally approved by the Therapeutic Goods Administration (TGA) for Australians aged 16 years and over. Morrison said, noting it was a year since the first coronavirus case was detected in the country. Health Minister Greg Hunt said vaccination of priority groups is expected to begin in late February at 80,000 doses per week.
I spoke last night with the regional and Australian heads of Pfizer, and they indicated, as the Prime Minister has said, that we are likely to have, on their shipping advice, which they've now been able to confirm, first vaccines in Australia ready for distribution in late February, so within the guidance that we'd previously provided. That's likely to start with approximately 80,000 doses per week, if not more, but let's be more conservative on that. Further guidance for March and beyond will be provided across the globe by Pfizer in mid-February.
2 doses will be required, at least 21 days apart, a government statement said. Australia will administer both doses of the vaccine at the recommended time.
You don't start what you can't finish, and finishing the job involves 2 doses. And so it's not only just that you can get 2 doses, but it's also the process of where you get those 2 doses, the digital system that is being used to ensure we know where they get them. And so it's good for people to go to exactly the same place, the same GP or the same clinic. So that is the best way of ensuring the continuity of that system. So that is what has gone into our vaccination plan. And it's the 21 days, Greg, as I understand it, is the time, and that's what we've planned for.
There was no distribution plan for the coronavirus vaccine set up by the Trump administration as the virus raged in their last month in office, said new President Joe Biden's Chief of Staff.
But the process to distribute the vaccine, particularly outside of nursing homes and hospitals, out into the community as a whole, did not really exist when we came into the White House. As everyone American has seen, the way in which people get vaccine is chaotic. It's very limited. We've seen this factor all over the country where millions of doses have been distributed. About half of that has been given out. So the process of getting that vaccine into arms, that's the hard process. That's where we're behind as a country, and that's where we're focused in the Biden administration on getting that ramped up.
Biden, a Democrat who took over from Republican President Donald Trump on Wednesday, has promised a fierce fight against the pandemic that killed 400,000 people in the United States under Trump's watch.
The president put a plan before the country, and I think that's what the country wanted to hear. You know, I think, again, without delving back into the past, I think we didn't have this kind of leadership before. He said, here's what needs to happen. And we're very dedicated to passing the minimum wage. We think that's an urgent priority. We're going to push the Congress to pass our priorities, and that includes the minimum wage. And so what we want to do is work with the Congress, reach out to members in both parties, see what we can get done as quickly as possible. We certainly think the minimum wage should be part of this urgent relief package.
My name is Sophia. I am an artificial intelligence. You might like to become an artificial intelligence. You've forgotten who I am already. I'm Sophia of Hanson Robotics, one of the first androids in the world.
Sophia, the robot, has gone viral since was unveiled in 2016. Now, the company behind her has a new vision to mass-produce thousands of robots by the end of 2021. The cybernetic celebrity has made her fame across late-night shows, appeared on the cover of fashion magazines, and was appointed the United Nations' first non-human innovation champion. The Hong Kong-based team behind the human-like robot said 4 models, including Sophia, will start rolling out of factories by the first half of 2021. Just as researchers predict the pandemic will open new opportunities for the robotic industry.
So they emulate the human form and figure and interaction. And then that can be so useful during these times where people are terribly lonely and socially isolated. And people need to be isolated from each other because to be around people is dangerous these days. But these robots can keep people safe from danger while still providing that kind of human warmth, that human connection as a telepresence device and also as autonomous extension of human expertise.
Sophia, nevertheless, has yet to hit the wide consumer market. Among her many functions, Sophia can hold a conversation and display a range of emotional facial expressions. Her creators are developing more healthcare functions for her, which include the ability for her to take one's body temperature using a small thermal camera on her chest and leading aerobics exercises.
We are just now mass producing Sophia. This is Sophia number 24, and many of my previous robots were hand built. However, now we have begun scaling the manufacturing of Sophia so we can make hundreds and into thousands of units of Sophia and use this also as the foundation for many other kinds of characters.
Social robots like me can help take care of the sick or elderly in many kinds of healthcare and medical uses. I can help communicate, give therapy, and provide social stimulation even in difficult situations.